Hello, welcome to Bodhicaryavatara, chapter 7, verse 27. This video replaces the earlier video on verse 27 where we had a problem with the sound. I will call up the text for you. I'll read it out first without it up in front of you, and then I'll call it up in front of you. Nadukki tyakta papatvat panditatvan nadurmanah mithya kalpanaya chitte papat kaye yato vyatha. Now I'll share the screen. Here we are. Nadukki tyakta papatvat panditatvan nadurmanah mithya kalpanaya chitte papat kaye yato vyatha. Na dukkhi. Dukkha, we know, of course. Dukkhi, stem dukkin, so that would make the genitive dukkina, and so on. Dukkhi is one who suffers, a suffering person, just as yoga, yogi, dukkha, dukkhi. And the subject of this sentence is just the generalized one, a person, people generally. And so it's not expressed. So not suffering is just the way of saying one does not suffer. Tyakta papatvat. Tyakta papatvat. From the state of being a person whose sin has been abandoned. Right, let me explain that on the iPad. So, papa often translated as sin, but just evil, the doing of evil, generally a moral evil. The root tyaj is to abandon, but more to renounce, like a conscious, deliberate renunciation, as generally regarded as a morally good thing. You are renouncing evil, renouncing karma, renouncing indulgence and certain desires of the flesh or mind, that kind of thing. So tyaj, the idea of renunciation. And it makes the past passive participle tyakta. Something has been renounced, is tyakta. Now the compound tyakta papa is a bahuvrihi, it's a possessive compound. And it is a possessive compound of roughly the same construction as, for example, the name of the bird, a bluethroat. So a bluethroat, the stress on the first syllable, so it's not a blue throat, a throat that is blue, but a bluethroat is a bird whose throat is blue. So bluethroat, adjective, now become a noun, of course, describing a bird whose throat is blue. Also, big nose, a person whose nose is big. Tyakta papa is exactly that. It is an adjective then of course, like virtually any adjective can be used as a noun, but it's primarily an adjective describing something, a person, whose sin has been abandoned, whose evil has been renounced. So a blue throat, a bird whose throat is blue, a tyakta papa, a person whose papa is tyakta, has been renounced. We can make now an abstract noun out of that by adding twa. So we have tyakta papatvam, it's a neuter noun, twa, tvam. Tyakta papatvam means the conditional status of being a person whose evil has been renounced. In this verse, I'll call the text back for you. In this verse, we have it in the ablative, and this here is the ablative of cause, by reason of. So naduhki tyakta papatvat, one does not suffer, one is not sorrowful by reason of the condition of being a person whose evil has been renounced. So from renounced evilness, the condition of being a person whose papa is tyakta. The next pada, the next half verse, panditatvan nadurmanah. And one is not sorrowful, ailing in mind, durmana, because our dur is just a variant by Santi of duh. Durmana, literally bad-minded, namely something wrong with your mind, you're sorrowful, downcast. We know sorry, I should be showing you my iPad here. Manas, mind. Durmanas is also a bahuvrihi, actually, a possessive compound of the same construction, almost the same construction, as tyakta papa. So durmanas, one whose mind is wrong, therefore sorrowful, downcast, despondent. Note that where we have a neuter noun ending in the stem as manas, tejas, vachas, there are several neuters like that. So manas, where it becomes the second element of an adjective, because durmanas is now an adjective. Manas on its own a neuter noun, durmanas now is an adjective. The nominative masculine singular form changes the final as to a. So that is how we have durmana. And you'll find a note on that in MacDonnell's grammar at paragraph 83. So naduhki tyakta papatvat, one does not sorrow by being in a state of having abandoned one's evil. Or the or is sorry, there it is, nadurmana, not despondent, not downcast, panditatvat. Note the sandhi here. Panditatvat, na, the final t before a na, the t changes to a na. That's where we have with sandhi, panditatvan nadurmana. So pandita, yes, the original meaning actually is more of a rather than wisdom, it's more of a scholar. The pandita is used in Buddhist texts to have with the idea of wise. Originally in Sanskrit was more of a scholarly thing. One who had studied the Vedas rather than gained a particular amount of wisdom from them. So that's a pandita, and it forms the abstract noun. A pandita is a word describing a person. Panditatva is panditahood, the status of being a scholar, the status of being a pandita. So one is not durmana, one is not despondent. Panditatvat, from panditahood, from the condition of being a pandit, from being wise and learned doesn't make you sad. So one doesn't suffer by being a person whose evil has been abandoned. One is not downcast, na durmana panditatvat, from being a pandita, a wise or a learned person. And the second line, mitya kalpanaya chitte papat kaye yato vyatha. Okay, let's start at the end of the sentence. It starts off by saying one does not suffer from having abandoned evil. One is not despondent, downcast by being wise. Yato, because vyatha generally means affliction. How have we dealt with it? Yeah, because affliction, vyatha, in the mind, or affliction in the mind, meaning arises in the mind, mitya kalpanaya, from false projections, false imaginings. Kaye means vyatha, affliction, arises kaye, in the body, papat, from evil action, evil doing, any kind of evil. So we can recast this sentence, or the second part of it, by saying in more of an English order. And I'll put in utpadyate, meaning arises. Yato, because vyatha, affliction, utpadyate, because it's left out here, is or arises. Utpadyate chitte, in the mind, mitya kalpanaya, from false kalpana, from false imaginings, false projections. Kaye utpadyate cha, and it arises. Kaye, in the mind. Papat, from evil. So if we were putting this in English, we'd put yato vyatha at the beginning of this line, because affliction, is chitte, in the mind, from false imaginings, and because vyatha, and because vyatha, affliction, kaye, in the body, arises in the body, papat, through evil. I made an error in the earlier analysis that I'd done of this. In the explanation of the Bahuvrihi, the possessive compound, I refer you here to MacDonnell, paragraph 189. In the previous version, I put 189 bracketed 3. I don't know why that 3 went in. It's just 189. So I will read this through to you once more. Naduhki tyakta papatvat panditatvan nadurmanah mitya kalpanaya chitte chitte papat kaye yetu vyatha. One thing I didn't mention earlier, I'll say it now, that vyatha, oops, let me curse, here we are. Vyatha, affliction, arises chitte in the mind, mityakalpanaya, and vyatha, affliction, arises kaye in the body, papat, from evil. Kalpanaya, this is the instrumental. It arises by evil, but you'll see that papat is the ablative. So in Sanskrit, it's the third case, mitya kalpanaya, whereas this one, papat, is the ablative, the fifth case. Note here that both are grammatically equally correct to convey this meaning, that something arises because of something else. You can put it in the instrumental, which gives more of the meaning it arises by or by reason of, or you can put it in the ablative, where we have in papat, arises from. Just as in English we can do pretty much the same. Arises from evil, arises by reason of evil. So just note here that the instrumental kalpanaya and ablative papat, both equally correct, and both give the same meaning. So again, the final reading before we wind up on this verse. Naduhki tyakta papatvat panditatvan nadurmanah mitya kalpanaya chitte papat kaye yetu vyatha. And that concludes verse 27.